Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we're back here on the show.
Hello.
Hello. All right.
Welcome back, everybody. Hi, Miss Mimi. How are you? It's 4th.
Wonderful.
4th of July. Everybody get enough barbecue?
No, enough barbecue.
It's never enough.
Never enough.
Never enough barbecue.
All right.
All right. We are back on the show. Show topic.
Show topic today is consenting adults. I noticed that in the media there's been a lot of talk about Bill Cosby, even going back a little further than that, CeeLo Green, and certain allegations. And today we just want to examine verbal and nonverbal consent and see what everybody, thinks and feels about that, because it's a very relevant topic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's been an issue for many years as far as sexual assault. And it's sometimes it could be an unclear line as to whether someone has given consent or not.
Right.
So we want to discuss that today.
Okay.
And,
so, but before we get started into the conversation, Miss Mimi, what is consent? What is, we need to know, what that, you say there's a fine line. Okay, what's consent?
Well, the definitions that I have found online, okay, I'll read them to you. Consent is mandatory in every kind of sexual activity. Let's see here. Whether it's with a new partner or in a long-term relationship, without consent, any sexual act is sexual violence. This means that consent is a communication, affirmative, conscious, and freely made decision by each participant to engage in sexual activity.
Okay.
And what we want to discuss today is verbal and nonverbal consent, because sometimes you can consent without actually saying, yes, I want to be intimate with you.
Wow.
So let's talk about that. Talk about that.
Yeah, let's.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Okay, so what's an example? Because we know what a verbal consent is.
Right.
So what's an example of nonverbal? What do you think the nonverbal consent is?
In my opinion, and based on the research that I've done, if you are physically making actions with some other person leading to the engagement of sex, and you're not pulling back or stopping and sex occurs, and you're a wolf or participant, then that's consent. I have here with me a list of some things that are considered non-verbal consent. So I'm just reading this that I found online. Direct eye contact. I necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm looking directly at the two of you now.
Absolutely.
I'm not consenting to anything with this conversation.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's
starting to have that direct view and all the wiggly eyes and all that.
Yeah, that still isn't consent to me. That's like flirtation.
Oh.
And which brings that statement just brings me to something else I want to mention real quickly. I have put together a survey. It's on our Facebook pages and it's on the website about verbal and nonverbal consent. And I would invite everyone to click it on and take it. It'll take you less than 5 minutes. And we would appreciate your efforts and your feedback on that. And I'm mentioning that also because here it says initiating sexual activity is a form of nonverbal consent, like what I just described a moment ago.
Right.
Okay. But eye contact.
I'm not with the eye contact.
Yeah, me.
That's what's on this list. I do not agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
because I can be you checking you out from across the room, that's not an invitation for anything. Okay? That just means I like what I'm looking at. It means nothing more.
Or it could mean I'm just looking at you.
That's right.
You know.
All right.
But yeah.
But initiating some sexual activity, like pulling someone closer to you when you're embracing and you're kissing, that also can be a fine line there. Because I might be willing to make out with you, but I may not be willing to go all the way.
Okay.
Now, I mean, as an adult, I guess most adults don't actually make out. What would be the point if you're not going all the way? But it is still something that is a choice or an option that we all have.
And it has to be determined yes or no.
Right.
Because that's where the fine line comes in.
Would you say that you have to verbally say yes to the person you're with for it to be consensual?
I think that you should, by all means, verbally say that, so that there won't be any, we didn't get it, mistwisted. You understand fully what I'm saying. That if by any way that you can verbally say yes or no, then by all means you should, so it's understood. Okay. Yes or no.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It should be clarity.
So what about if you're actively touching someone, they have open body language, and laughing and smiling, while they're touching you back? Not consent.
It's not clearly understood.
It's not clearly understood, and I agree with that. So some of these things here on this list, which I just got off the internet, I don't agree with, and you obviously don't agree with either. But some clear signs that someone is not consenting, and I'm going to read a few of those. If a person says, I'm not sure about this. I want to do this, but not right now.
Okay.
If they are pushing you away as you are pulling them close, or if you're touching them and they're trying to avoid being touched, those are clear signs that they are not willing participants and wanting to go further with this activity. Yes, indeed. So let's take it a little bit further.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about something that I believe most people have encountered at least once in their life as adults, where you're with someone and you're drinking some wine, or you're having a few beers, or you're throwing a few back, right? And you get a little tipsy. Okay. What's the difference between that and someone willfully engaging in a spiked drink or taking some pills like Quaaludes or something? What is the difference in terms of how that impacts their ability set? What do you think, Ms. Debbie?
I think, when you're talking about mixing alcohol and drugs,
no, not necessarily mix them together, but one versus the other.
One versus the other. With alcohol, unless somebody has a gun on you saying, hey, you gonna drink this drink, then you're making the choice to drink the alcohol yourself. So in that, you're making the choice, even though you're in a position to where you're drinking and you get intoxicated, you still can say yes or no.
Right.
At some point. Now, before you get to the point to where you just get too out there and then you don't that decision. But before you get to that, you done gone too far level, then you still have a choice as to say yes or no. Right. You choose to take pills, depending on what the drug is, because I'm sure that different people differently. And it depends on who you are as a person. It probably wouldn't work the same on me as it would you, because our chemistries are different. So, but unless you're making a choice to take these drugs, and so you get out of there, you may not have the time to consent.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. It's
clear.
It is, and a lot of times we as individuals, men and women, sit around with friends or someone of the opposite sex or what have you, that you are attracted to, having drinks, and first it just starts off 1 or 2 drinks, and next thing you know, you guys have knocked off a whole bottle. And you're both under the influence.
I have a party responsibility view on that, because and as Ms. Debbie was just saying, the person still has the ability to say know before they get too intoxicated. In other words, the intoxication takes over. But there's a responsibility factor, and I think sometimes we overlook that or out of that, and we create an avenue for some people to not be held responsible. And we start wanting to point fingers too harshly, even though they were in the wrong. Somebody without consent might take advantage of somebody who has become over intoxicated, where they have lost their ability at that point. But there needs to be accountability for the person getting intoxicated, because it's just like with any other situation where responsibility is held accountable. In other words, it's your responsibility if you get in a vehicle with somebody who's carrying drugs, and you all could get pulled over. You know that they're carrying drugs, so you know that certain things could possibly happen if you enter into certain areas. Okay, and it's just like a woman. If you're in, there was the bar, not the barroom rape, but there was the other rape with some college students, where the woman got so intoxicated, and it was considered a gang rape. All right. Now you're the only female, in the room with a bunch of guys, and you're just drinking and drinking. Now, without even considering the possibility that if I lose my state of sound mind, these guys could possibly take advantage of me. That's a responsibility on her. I mean, I'm not saying it excuses what the guys did, but sometimes we place ourselves in bad situations
and make bad decisions.
So,
that was the Vanderbilt, those Vanderbilt football players.
Right.
I remember that.
Not just there.
Not just there, but
a lot of schools, whatever. Right. But something you said brought up a point that I was going to make, and I'm going to drive it home right now.
Okay.
And it's just something I thought of over the weekend while I was putting together my survey and reviewing my notes. Or engaging in pills or any type of alcohol or substance drink. Use this as a guideline. If they're not okay to drive, then they're not okay to consent.
Okay.
Use that as a guideline, because if you've had 2 drinks, you're okay to, for the most part, and you're probably okay to. But if you've had 6 or 7 drinks, you're over the legal limit of intoxication, and you're probably in the right mind frame to consent. So
I would agree.
I just think that's a good rule of thumb for maybe some young people out here to follow. Those that have gotten themselves in situations or come close to getting themselves in situations that can be misconstrued.
Absolutely.
Use that as a guideline to determine, what should happen, what shouldn't happen right now at this point in time.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that, Miss Mimi. And let me just say, and how because I was at a point in my life where that's all I did was drink, and so I've gotten to the point to where I was here, and then I've gotten to some points where I was over, my limit, and I knew I was over my limit, but by God's grace, He, when I was making those crazy decisions, He was there to, absolutely, and so I'm thankful for that. I'm not saying that as to say, okay, just go on out here, and throw them back. I'm saying, that was my chance, and so I realized that, and so I'm thankful for that. And you're bringing this topic up, today, because there are so many cases to where these things have been taken as as a choice to say, well, since she's drunk, I'm gonna take advantage.
Right. And now who said that? What famous person actually tweeted that? And I want to say this was probably a year or 2 ago, but CeeLo Green did tweet that something to the effect, and don't quote me verbatim, because I tried to find a picture of the exact quote today, and I came up with 2 different things. But basically, his tweet implied that if she's unconscious, then she can't say no. It's not
Wow.
rape. And I was floored when that was first brought to my attention. Because, oh my goodness, if she's unconscious, she's unconscious. She can't say yes or no, therefore she can't consent.
Wow.
You know, and wow, that was just, in this day, someone of his status would publicly tweet that type of comment. Of course, it did have an impact on his life. He lost his job on The Voice and some other issues, and he ended up with some only charge of I forget what it was. He had slipped ecstasy into her drink or whatever, and I'm unclear whether it rendered her unconscious or not. But sexual assault, they said that the judge determined that the sex was consensual. So I'm a little iffy on that, because I mean, yeah, some people do, you know, hook up ecstasy and drink and do things with the intention of amplifying their sexual experience or whatever. But like I said, I'm unclear as to the fact of whether she was conscious or not. And so I can't say whether I agree or disagree with the results of what happens in that particular scenario.
Well, I think that for anybody, if you go in with that mindset as to, you know, that this is what you setting out to do, then you've already, you know, for me, you've already stepped over that boundary.
What do you mean? You mean like for in the girl guy situation, the guy already
specifically said, I'm gonna get her over here, and then I'm gonna, you know, slip her this pill, you know, and then when she go, I'm gonna do what you done already premeditated.
That's conspiracy and premeditated. Conspiracy to take advantage of a person. And,
so
that in itself should be a crime.
Absolutely.
Whether they drink the drink or not, just the intent was there.
Yeah, the intent was
definitely
so that's
there.
what it sounds like, you know, in the CeeLo Green case. That's what it sounds like. It's wrong, you know, but I'm just saying, to me, that's what it sounds like. That you, with the intent of doing what you was gonna do. And that's for anybody, not only him, anybody who has that kind of mindset.
So let's talk about. I was a fan of his stand-up routine. Of course, I was young when he came out with his first album in 1969. I was 4. But I did love him as an actor. And there's a whole lot more love for him when he was Irresistible. And I'm sure everybody's aware of the recent events in the last couple of years. And the countless number, I want to say it's more than 40, maybe more than 50 women that have come out with an allegation against him dating back as far as 1969, I believe. 69 or 71. What do you think the rape culture back in the early 1970s as opposed to what it's like now? Do you think it's changed? Because it's one of the questions I put in my survey. Do you think rape culture has changed in the last 30 or 40 years?
When you talk about rape is a forceful act. So
doesn't have to be. Not if you subdue a person.
Well, for the most part. For the most part. When you think about rape, it's a forceful act. So my answer to that would be, is it any different from 1969 to the present year, 2017? I think rape is rape.
I think the rape culture has definitely changed the last 30 or 40 years, and I'll explain to you why. We're looking at from men and women being the subject of the rape. Back in not recent years, let's say go back 30, 50 years, you know, women didn't always have the same rights as men. There's always been a battle. There were times that women were considered property, just like African Americans were considered property. So I'm sure that back in the 60s, if a husband forced his wife to have sex, that was not considered rape on the books, and that's a fact. Now it is considered rape if a husband forces to have sex. Marriage does not constitute implied consent. And so that should kind of show the beginning of the change in terms of rape culture. Okay. And even if you go back 30, 40, 50 years or so, oftentimes, you know, women didn't even feel they had a right to speak up. You know, because the men were the head of the households, men were the rule. Nobody was going to take a woman's word over a man's word. If you go back further enough, that's you know, that's reality. You know, thank God we don't live in that time today. Sound like you were getting ready to say something, Jack. Were you?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much going to say that. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you could even go back in biblical history. I mean, it's right there written in the Bible. It really is.
What does it say?
Really, you know, the woman at the well. The nature of the culture of the people in that area was that the women were treated actually lower than worse than animals. They were actually they had no they were actually slaves. They were really slaves. You know, you do what I want when I want or whatever I want,
and you can't complain about it.
And you cannot complain about it.
That's true.
I mean, so that's even in biblical history. And when you really look, I mean, I'm not going to spend all that time, but I'm just saying, just look throughout the Bible. You'll see way throughout the Bible a lot of this. And it really carried on all the way up until Christ came. I'm just, you know, kind of till Christ came to really set some examples and really set some understanding, more understanding that we are to treat each other as equal, not one more than the other, or one, you know, one gender, over than the other. But getting back, as you were saying, cultures, the Chinese or the Oriental race tends to, and even still today, have their women in a lower class, as the male, and it's right, and the woman is to completely submit themselves to their basically every wish. It really is their every wish. And they count it as a dishonor if the woman does it. So we have a little bit of a cultural understanding, but here, you know, there's differences too. And the women there accepted. Now, to us in our culture in America, it would seem like it's wrong. It would we would call it wrong and not consent. But in their culture, that it's pretty much right. It's understood. That's their way of life. So if it's an accepted way of life, you can't really say it's consent, because that's the practice that they hold.
I'm glad I don't live there. That's all I can say about that.
You know, here in America, this is not the practice that we have set forth. It's not acceptable here in America. And some other countries, a few other countries. So where it has become the quote law and the practice and the culture, then you know, those things would be considered not without consent. And you know, marriage, as you were saying.
So marriage,
And so, and you know, and I heard for the first time, I think this was a few years ago, it was a case that came up with a husband and a wife, and the wife was saying that the husband, you know, raped her and everything like that, and they actually went to court and everything. And I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, wow. I mean, rape between a husband and a wife, can that be? I mean, you know, can it be? And so I'm still left, you know, with the question of, you know, is this something that can be, you know? Because
you left with that question now today,
I mean,
or back then you were
at that time. At that time.
So now you know the answer, right? Or not? I
still feel on a little, you know, it's not a definite thing, because now my thing is this: when you're talking about marriage, okay, yes, you got the right to say, you know, well, look, honey, you know, I don't feel like it tonight. You know, you got every right, just like he got every right to say, look, honey, I don't feel like it, you know, tonight either. That's your right. But when you get married with the understanding. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about, in a way that is just forced upon you. But you get married with the understanding that a part of marriage is you pleasing your husband and your husband pleasing you. Okay, so that goes. But now, if he loves you like he says he does, I mean, y'all stood before and you got married and things like that, he's going to respect you if you say, and vice versa.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So now, because when you talk about, I mean, rape, I just that word, it gets up under my skin,
Right, so
as
let's say
opposed
sexual
to
assault.
husband and wife. I'm
Well,
feel about that.
I'm hearing two sides, and I actually kind of agree with both sides or both views, because there is a medium in both of the conversations both of you are producing. The thing about marriage, if it starts off with the wrong idea, it's going to end up with the wrong actions. All right, and that's where we come into the conflict where law has come in to try to put a fix on what started off from the first place. And I hear what you're saying. If you're married, it should never be called rape. But the thing of it is forced. It is forced. If the person is not willing, it is considered forced.
And therefore it's considered rape.
It's considered.
That's what rape is. That's what it's defined.
So rape can occur between a husband and wife in both your opinions?
Right. That in America, in America, and the culture and our laws, yes.
Unfortunately, you say yes.
Yes.
What do you say?
Yes. It can be.
Because if you say no,
well, it starts off wrong.
It sounds to me like you're a little bit on the fence.
Right.
No, I'm saying no is no. No is no for whatever reason.
Well,
for whatever reason. Okay, and the act still occurs with you making it plain that no is no.
Then it's sexual assault.
And I'm still like, yeah. I mean,
because one of I'm a little bit surprised and we'll take it aback, but everybody's entitled to their opinion of view. We don't always have to see things the same way. And look, and that brings good conversation.
Right.
And that's what we want. That's our goal here today, is to get people talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the questions on my survey, and I think I have it right here. May I? Thank you. One of the questions I asked, does marriage stipulate implicit consent? Implicit means it's automatic 100% consent at all times. And of course, my answer is hell to the no. Excuse me, if you're religious, hell to the no. I don't care if I'm single, casually dating, in a committed relationship, married for 1 year, 50 years.
Okay.
I still have the right to say no. This is I give it to you when I want to give it to you. You don't have the right to take what you want from me. Marriage does not mean that I give up my right to say no. So, does marriage stipulate implicit consent? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's just my opinion. Again, I want to mention my survey is posted on the website. I'd appreciate you taking 5 minutes to complete it. We will talk about the results later next week. This is a very important topic, so please take a moment to check that out. So let me ask you this. I'm asking you, you can put your comments on Facebook. You can call in. Call-in number is 931-220-7063.
Yes.
Right.
Call in if you want to answer this question for me, because this is the most important question, in my opinion, that's in this survey that I came across, that came to me when I was doing my research. The absence of no means yes. Is that true or false? The absence of no means yes.
I'm going to go back to my beginning statement, Miss Mimi. I'm going to go back to my beginning statement. All point, whenever possible, make you known verbally. Make it known verbally. If you make it known verbally, then there cannot be any misunderstanding about what there is.
Well, we know that.
So if you make it known, so in saying that, what are you saying, Debbie? If I say no, then that means no. Okay, because see, we didn't already got to a point to where, you know, maybe you thinking about it, you're thinking about the act. So now, you make the choice right then and there, yes or no.
So what if you don't say anything? That's the question. If you don't say no, does that automatically mean yes? What do you have to say, Jay? Okay, you're the male in the group.
Okay.
So that's gonna give us a different perspective.
There should always be clear understanding. I agree with that, but I understand what you're saying too. This is not always the case. We could sit here and talk about what should be, ought to be, can be, you know, which are words that I continually advise people to avoid to say. Because that doesn't deal with the statistics, the real true statistics and the facts of a situation. In this particular case, you're talking about the status of people. The status of people on a normal basis is that they do not, we got a caller coming in. Hold on caller for a minute. Okay, the status of the situation is that most people do not have full conversations to cover areas that need to be talked about before relationship and even while in the relationship. It's pretty much most things are assumed. I was watching a movie last. It's titled "When Black Jesus Come." All right, y'all excuse the title, but it wasn't about a black Jesus. Okay, it's about a guy. His name was Jesus. Okay, that was just his name. Not Jose, but you know, Jesus, as they call it. But the guy had left a marriage where left his wife, where she was alcoholic, strong alcoholic. He got tired of it. He met a Christian woman. This woman was in her 40s and had never been touched. She was a virgin. Okay. He was a good guy. The guy was a good guy, but because he was used to having at least a little sexual contact with his wife before marrying her. Before leaving her, and so some time it went by, and he got to feeling some kind of way. I'll just say the word horny, as we say. And came on the new woman, which was a Christian woman, virgin, and was coming on to her and thinking that maybe this might be a good time, and she kept pushing him away, and he was like, "You've never been touched?" She was like, "No, I've never been touched. I don't. You would at least have one kind of," like, "No, I've never been touched, and I'm saving myself for my husband." She'd never been married either. And so, like, well, you should have discussed that with me before we got into a relationship. She was like, "No, you should have discussed that with me, that you might would want a little bit, or be feeling some kind of way." And so, and like I said,
So she was actually got into a relationship with this guy.
Yeah, actually got in a relationship. And they were going for months good. And then he just finally feeling some kind of way and started coming on to her very strongly. And she kept pushing him away. And that, put a little dagger in the relationship for a little temporary until he conformed and and adjust to that respect. Where, but that was something that they should have discussed.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you don't discuss it, it can only lead people to assumptions. You know, well, you know, and I'm gonna put it point blank, guys, too. You know, women are not excluded. That, you know, hey, we've been talking for a little while, or you know, maybe, you know, this can happen with us, you know, because we be kissing or we be if you know one time the other person said, oh, you know what, I'm getting real hot, we're gonna have to stop this. So they're getting the idea, the other one getting the idea, well, you know, hey, you know, if they got hot that time, maybe we can go further the next time. I mean, if you don't have conversations and really discuss it,
right, there's gonna be all kinds of
you leave
confusion.
it open, all kinds of
You
stuff.
leave you leave it open.
I'm gonna get that caller back on the line.
Why don't you call them back?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
That caller.
We
has to
lost
say.
them.
When you look at the Bill Cosby case trial and everything that just happened, and by the way, there was a hung jury.
It was a hung jury.
Hung jury.
And the new trial is scheduled for November of this year.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Bill Cosby case, and the media stated that it was 40 or more, you know, that had some dealings with him at some point. One of the things that I was thinking about that was that in a lot of the cases, some of the cases, this time stipulation had ran out.
In most of them.
In most of them.
Yes.
In
fact,
the
I believe
statute of
there's
limitation that ran out.
I think there's only one woman in this
right. Correct.
And the
civil
whole
litigation that's currently. Yes, because her event occurred in 2005. So I'm assuming there's a 10-year statute of limitations because this was filed prior to.
Okay.
So the other women, I'm not going to say all, because I'm sure there's some out there that still haven't come forward. Most of the other women, their events occurred prior to that, so it's more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So therefore, the statute has
right.
There are exceptions. I don't know if you knew this, but there are exceptions to the statute of limitations for these type of offenses if it's proven that the victim was being harassed and threatened by the perpetrator.
Right.
That he was accused of sexually assaulting and raping or whatever. Back when she was underage, now she's grown or whatever. She was able to bring those charges. Eventually did get settled out of court. Okay. But she was able to bring them back because she proved that he was harassing and threatening her family for her silence.
Okay.
So, that's so.
So, but my thought was that, and I'm not saying I don't, know how many women it actually are. I don't know how many who are actually saying that this is the truth of what happened. The point that I was making was that because it came out in the media that some of the women or several of the women waited all of this time, 30, 40 years later, to make the claim that this happened. And I understand, maybe it was they didn't want, wanted to shame themselves further, or whatever that guilt is that women deal with when that kind of thing happens. But even at some point in time, 30 years, 40 years, that's a long length of time.
It is really a long length of time. And I think I remember you asking me a question when we talked about this outside of the show last week or so. Why did they wait so long? Why did they wait so long? And my answer goes back to, first of all, you got to understand rape culture. What rights we as women had back in that time frame. So if you look at 1970 versus 2017 women, it's very, very different. I mean, we have a lot more say now. We have a lot more rights now. We're more vocal. We are heard and understood. Whereas back in that time frame, we were still kind of considered the second-class citizens. And a lot of times, even in this day and age, when there is a woman that is a victim of sexual assault or rape, oftentimes most of them don't even file complaints to come forward because of the shame and stigma attached to it. Because it's been, I don't want to say proven, but it's been it's a common thing, whereas victims of a sexual assault feel like they did something wrong. And I mean, everybody, I don't want to say just about everybody knows that. It's no secret that a lot of times victims carry that thought process with them. And so if you're feeling like you did something wrong, or if you're feeling shame, you know, it can prevent you from going forward and coming out with it. And if we look at in terms of Cosby, if we look at who he was, 1969 and in the 70s and 75, you know, he was the only powerful black person that was in entertainment on TV. He was one of the very strongest and most powerful people of that time. And so here you have a 18 or 19 or 20-year-old who is trying to become an actress or whatever, and, you know, comes to him for some counseling or some coaching, and he takes advantage of them, and they're like, who's gonna believe me? I'm nobody. But he's this big person. You know, back then Bill Cosby was to the people like Barack Obama, in my opinion. You know, and so yeah, I could very easily see why 30 or 40 women didn't come forward all those years ago. You know, but me having and it took me years to acknowledge it verbally. That's why I can see, you know, their reasons for not coming forward all those years ago, you know, because of how I felt or whatever. But
so let me ask you this question, Ms. Mimi. Do you feel, was that the way you felt at the time when this happened to you, that, you know, the shame, and or you felt that maybe it was your fault? I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm asking, what did you feel? The
first time, yes, because I was 14 or 15. So yes, I felt those very exact things.
Okay.
And I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my sisters, and nothing. I didn't tell anybody. I kept that secret for more than 20 years, maybe 30 years before I shared it with someone. And then the last time, I didn't say anything because I wasn't even really sure that I had been assaulted, you know, because of the circumstances or the scenario. So it took me some years to realize, you know, I'm hearing that this happened. I'm hearing that this happened to this person. I'm hearing the same thing that happened to me.
Okay.
You know, and that's when I realized, you know, I've been assaulted.
Okay.
You know, and of course I was older and more mature at that point in time, and it's not something that is negatively impacting me at this point,
right,
or holding me back in any way. I openly and freely talk about it.
Right. Yes.
I won't mention any names.
Right.
I don't want to be slanderous to anybody.
Yeah.
Because it can't be proven. But so the two different experiences. One for me happened when I was around 14 and 15,
yeah,
and one
terrible.
for me happened when I was probably in my 30s, late 30s. And my reactions to both were very different.
I'm sure.
Back then I had the shame and guilt and everything.
At 14, yeah, I can imagine.
And, you know, kept silent about it. Whereas the recent one, I kept silent because I didn't really realize that this was an actual crime or assault. But I have no qualms with seeing it for what it is now.
Okay.
So I could see the hesitancy, people coming forward, definitely.
Okay.
And especially back in that day.
I can see, you know, at 14, I would imagine how traumatic that was, you know, at 14. I mean, because for 14, that's, you know, young teenage female life where you're coming into yourself, you're realizing who you are, you know, and then for your innocence to be taken. You know, I didn't have, I mean, I too share your feelings on what it feels like. I too was raped at knife point,
Oh my God.
in the city of Detroit. So I understand how that can impact you. The difference is I didn't know the guy. He knew who I was. He called me by name. And to not be able to identify who he was, not even knowing if I was going to come out alive, being taken from the area where I lived down dark alleys at knife point and left in the garage.
So you were kidnapped too?
Yes.
Oh my dear God.
So I understand that, but I made the decision that this was not going to affect the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
It was not going to affect who I am as a woman. I knew it was nothing that I did to cause this. Okay, and so that was not going to be the defining factor of who I am. And so I'm able, and that's why I can, I try to have a, look at both sides of that coin and just really see, I was one of the ones that was blessed. I don't believe in luck. I never say luck. I was blessed because he actually could have killed me and left me there and nobody would have knew, So I say, well, I think it's a matter of what do you choose to take away from it?
Right.
And so that was what I chose.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome that you had that endurance. And I wish that I had at 14. Of course, I didn't. And I wish that any woman in an area would have that mindset. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Not everyone is as strong as you.
Well, I think for me it was like it's not much older. When I think about 14, about 24 when it happened. But when you think about 14, that's not rape is rape. But when as opposed to a 14-year-old, that's a child, that's a baby, And so for innocence to be taken like that, as opposed to I was a grown woman at that time, but yet and still it was still a circumstance.
I need to clarify. I was not raped 14. I was sexually assaulted.
Sexually assaulted. Okay. And so so I think it's how you my mindset. My thing was the only thing I could think about is getting back home to my baby. At that time, my son was like about 3 years old. He was saying he wasn't gonna kill me, but I didn't know he wasn't. And I could, and you hear people say, when they're in a traumatic situation, their life. And that's exactly what happened, and I'm like, I just want to be able to get back. I did report. I the whole night at the Detroit police station looking at pictures that I could not identify because he was so covered on. No mark on his face, no scratches, nothing. There was no way I could identify him. There was no way I could have identified him. And so, and I just think, I'm so thankful to be here, today, so. Yeah, so, yeah.
Wow. I'm left without words right now.
Well, that's very inspiring for a lot of women, and a lot of women need to hear that. But as you were saying, you were older, but even as Mimi was saying, there are still older women who might go through rape or assault, even sexual, who are still not at that strength, who are weak, even like a young child. They're just weak. Everybody, many people, all of us are at different strength or headstrong levels in our lives, and some people are weak and very easily damaged. Some people, and hey, they could get hit by a Mack truck and keep on rolling.
That's definitely
so
a Mack truck.
I could, yes, and I no, I ain't never been raped in another life, of course, all right. But
that brings another question. Go ahead.
Well, I know dealing with male. Can men be raped? Yeah, men be raped. and that is absolutely true. Men can be raped. It has been reported, men being raped. Well, more than once. I mean, the more than cases of that has been reported. Who knows? Just like women, there may be more than what we really know, because only just a very few. So we think it's very rare what happened to a man.
Yeah.
Well, I happen to done research, and my research has led me to believe that men report even less than women. Men of sexual crime, sexual assault, whether it's at the hands of another man or at the hands of a woman. And I think, in my opinion, that has to do with men.
Yeah, it does.
I saw I don't know what movie that was, but it was a movie, and the guy, reported that he had been raped, and the police officers that were in the background, they were laughing.
I saw Law and Order SVU.
It was something else, but they were laughing like really, you was raped by a woman? That's what you're trying to make us believe? Right. And I'm like, wow.
Because I think the notion back in the day was that under duress, a man cannot gain an erection, or a woman cannot climax, and it's been proven untrue. A person that's being raped can actually climax during the encounter. It doesn't mean they're doing it, because it's a body function. And definitely the man, and that surprised me, but it's true. Men can be forced to have sex, and the fact that they have an erection does not mean consent. But that it's just the body responding to what's going on.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so yeah, bottom line is, just with anything else in life, especially in America and American culture, I had to put that in there. That if a person has not given permission, has not given the okay or the green light, however form you need to say it, has not agreed, if it's bottom line, it's disrespect, it's wrong, and it is not consented.
It's not consent, right?
It's not consented, and so that's with anything. I mean, it just doesn't have to be sex. But see, the practice is, if you if you have a history, a pattern, or a practice of doing things to other people, by assumption, whether it's okay or not, by a way of disrespect, same thing, by whether it's okay or not. If you have a practice, the certain things can lead up in the pattern of a person who might fall in the trap of doing things without consent, because there's a previous pattern elsewhere. Okay? All right? Because somebody, watch this, somebody who might really practice respect, that respect would highly most likely spew out to respect in the sexual area. All right? Because I still say there are always signs about people. We just don't know how to see it.
I believe that we know how to see it in terms of consent. That sometimes
we do
people
know how to see it.
choose to ignore them.
We choose to ignore it.
They choose to ignore them.
Choose to ignore it.
Because if you are like I'm going to take this out of the sexual realm just for a moment, to prove my point. There is a picture of Barack Obama and some little girl that he's hugging, and she's grabbing him and hugging him back. And then there's this other picture of Donald Trump holding this little child. She's like scared, crap. If they're not feeling you, you're going to see the signs. You're going to know she's not trying to embrace Donald Trump. She don't want to be with him. So you will see
It's
that.
the same thing.
Yeah,
it is.
if you're reaching to touch a person, are they touching you back?
Right. Mm-hmm.
If you're reaching to kiss a person, are they kissing you? You know, those things can indicate, where someone is feeling about what they're about to embark on, whether they're with it or whether they're not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to just say, "Baby, you sure you want to do this?" Doesn't hurt to say that. Take 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you got your all this good.
You know the person who probably would say that? Person that's that practice respect and practice giving, giving honor to a person. For that's why I was saying there you could you would be able to see the qualities in a person by looking at certain things,
looking and listening, paying attention.
And it don't have to be, well, let me see how he is in respecting women when it comes to sex. No, look how he is in respecting
everyday life.
Everyday life and everything he
look
does
how he
for
treats
people.
his mother,
his
sisters,
and because that can tell you a whole lot.
That will tell you
a whole lot of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell you
and may help you from being in an environment with some people who have the capability. I'm gonna say everybody's capable. I'll say who are in a practice of a certain way of life that could create the invitation for them to act that same way in a sexual atmosphere. Okay. Yeah. Or I should say sexual provocation.
Consent.
Yeah.
To consent or not to consent? That's the question.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Let it be a yes or no.
Please, if you can't say it, write it with crayon.
All right.
On some paper towel or something.
Make it clear.
Make it clear.
Just make it clear.
Make it clear. All right.
Never in doubt.
Yeah.
Make it clear.
Make it clear.
All right.
That's it.
And also be responsible for yourself.
Yes, please.
All right.
Yes, please.
All right.
As women, sometimes we flirt, but just flirting is fun. That doesn't mean we want to have sex with you. Right. Sometimes we have a little bit too much to drink, and we shouldn't. That doesn't mean I'm giving you consent to take advantage of your influence. But you also have some personal responsibility. We all have personal responsibility. So if you're going out on a date with a guy, and this is your first date, say you met online or you met through a friend, this is your first date, don't go get drunk. In fact, don't drink.
Please.
And you might want to set the ground. Look, you might get a kiss, you might get a hug, but it ain't no more. You can set that before you even get in the car. Absolutely. Before you even let them in the door. Before you even meet. Say it on the phone.
That's another conversation. Get in the car, because nowadays, please, I hope everybody is in agreement with me. Okay? When you are going on a first date, you don't let nobody pick you up at your house. Yeah. They don't even know before you even know who they are. No, get in the car.
Let me say this.
Uber if you don't want to drive.
Pam used to come to Gina in them house when she had it. Because she didn't want them to know where she stayed at. Remember, Pam used to come over.
That's right, she is. You can do that.
Pam used to come over to Gina at Martin's house when she was going on her first date. Wow. So I told her to pick me up here.
Get yourself a Google number, a address, and you be all good.
Pam used to be
if you need to lose them, they won't never find you. All right.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that's our little fun period. All right. All right. But
this has been a very, very interesting conversation.
Yes, it has.
And very serious and one we need to have.
Right.
And just so you know, we're not finished with it because either next week or the week after, I'm going to go over the results of the survey online.
Okay.
Live. So
all right.
If you haven't already, go to our website, click on the link, allcounted.com, take the survey I put together so we can get some input onto what you're thinking, verbal and nonverbal consents.
All right. All right.
Sean.
Well, I consent to us into this show.
Yes, I consent. I consent.
Oh, yeah, we got to consent. Everybody agree?
I don't agree.
Oh.
I still got one more thing I want to say.
Oh, go on, get it on. Come on. All right.
So,
we can't move.
I just want to mention, To any of our listeners or viewers, however to this right here, if you have a question or concern, you want to share a story, get some advice, we have a new segment we're developing called Sister to Sister. That's me to you and you to me.
That's right.
Where we're going to be, reading your letters. Please don't put your last names. You can make up a name. And we'll just read what you're saying and give some feedback on the topic. And you can email us at email. Is it email at JTalks Today's Relationship, or is it mail?
Right. It's
mail.
It's mail.
Mail. JTalksTodaysRelationships.com. So just send an email to that address, and eventually we're going to get it posted on the website for you to just click on it and be able to fill that out. And we'll be talking about it.
Yes.
All right.
Sister to sister.
Sister to sister.
All right. All right. More. All right.
Yeah.
So,
well, thanks for tuning in.
Consent?
We got a consent.
We have consent.
We have consented.
All
right.
To ending the show.
Yes.
All right, folks.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for
This is
tuning
Mimi
in.
Fox. Say holla.
Yes.
All right. We are out of here. We are out.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.